All right, what's going on, everyone? So we're going to do a quick update here on some international relations, national security type stuff, not directly related to Ukraine. So there is a lot of other things happening around the world. We're going to look at China, Iran, and North Korea. I got one story I'm going to focus on from each one of those. So starting with China, it was a few days ago, let's see, February 7th, the Pentagon told Congress that China now has more land-based intercontinental ballistic missile launchers, both fixed and mobile, than the United States. So this is one of those things where the headline probably gets more attention than it deserves. The one I'm looking at here on CNN says China has more ICBM launchers than U.S. Senior general tells lawmakers. And that is a factor, right? Don't want to brush that entirely aside. China has been making a lot of improvements in their military over the last 5, 10, 20 years. And in some ways, they are closing the gap in relation to the capabilities of the U.S. military. But there are some pieces, and these aren't left out of the article. They're just not at the top of the headline. This count is only talking about land-based, fixed and mobile, intercontinental ballistic missile launchers. So as of today, from all of the available public information, the United States still has more missiles. The United States still has more warheads, to include a lot more nuclear warheads. And this study here isn't looking at the other launch platforms for any of these missiles. So it's not looking at aircraft or submarines, of which the United States has quite a few more compared to China. So this is like one piece of the puzzle. It's a piece worth paying attention to. It's not nothing, but I think anytime, if you think back to the Cold War, wouldn't this have been the type of article that if it was China or especially the Soviet Union, this would have prompted lawmakers and probably people in the public to say, we got to double down on defense spending. They can't beat us when it comes to those ground-based intercontinental ballistic missile launchers, even though that's really just one piece of the overall picture. So I'll put a link to a couple of the articles talking about that, as well as these other items in the description below. Moving on to Iran. Iran revealed underground airbase, IRNA says, which is the Islamic Republic News Agency, I believe. It's the kind of one of the official news outlets within Iran, government news outlet within Iran. So Iran put out these pictures from what they call Eagle 44, an underground airbase large enough to house fighter jets, missiles, and drones, which was a big step up. They put out some other pictures and videos. I think it was in May of last year, it's been within the last year, showing some underground storage facilities for missiles and drones, which are still big, usually bigger than people think, but they're not anywhere near the size of full fighter jets like we see here. So this was interesting. My big takeaway here, I posted some pictures in an article in the community section, and people were brutal, just talking about bunker buster bombs and just caving the entrance and it's over. On that note, I think I saw something on Twitter. I'll see if I can pull it up here and link it. I think somebody located these secret bunkers and secret runways, which wouldn't be that hard, I wouldn't think, right? I mean, Iran is a big country, but these are likely built into some sort of mountainous region, which again, there's a ton of mountains, huge mountain ranges in Iran, but there have to be airfields nearby. You don't want these planes coming out and not having anywhere to taxi, not anywhere to take off. They have to be trucked, 30, 40 miles to an airfield. So there's going to be airfields nearby, which means you can probably narrow it down from satellite imagery, and I think somebody already did that. But if I'm right, I'll link that in the video here. I'll show a picture of it and then link it in the description below so you can read about it. But anyways, my big takeaway here is not that, yes, they have underground facilities. That's not necessarily groundbreaking. It's not new technology, anything like that. What this does mean, though, is when any country is assessing the Iranian military capabilities, one of the ways we're doing that is counting aircraft, counting hangars. You saw this a lot with Russia in the lead up to the invasion of Ukraine. There were analysts publicly on the internet counting number of tanks, number of armored vehicles to figure out the force disposition in certain areas. Knowing now that Iran has some sort of underground capability, not just for drones and missiles, but for fighter aircraft, it leaves a big question mark over their overall defensive posture, right? So if you're able to account for, X number of aircraft above ground that you can see, how many do they have below ground? Is it half of that number? Is it the same number? Is it twice that number? It adds a level of uncertainty. I'm sure there's a lot of people much smarter than I, much more qualified than I, with a lot better resources than open source internet that are digging into that and probably have good information. But that's the thing that came to mind when you see these other underground bunkers. I don't think they're going to be flying sorties out of these bunkers in the middle of a war kind of thing. That's not the vibe I got from this. Last one I wanted to talk to here was North Korea hosted a military parade. I had somebody did a little short video on this, and somebody said, I thought this was in 2020. You're right. They do a lot of these. North Korea does a lot of military parades for any major event. This one was for marking the 75th anniversary, I believe, of the North Korean Army, the founding of the North Korean Army. So there wasn't anything like groundbreaking here. Sometimes these parades, they put out pictures and videos, and there's like oh crap, I didn't know that they had this type of equipment. That wasn't really the case here. So I'll put up some pictures that came out. There were, of course, missiles. One of the big ones they showcased was the Hwasong 17. This is one that I don't think it's debated anymore. I'll double check this. I believe they successfully tested a couple years ago. But this is their newest, largest intercontinental ballistic missile, most advanced, with an estimated range of 15,000 kilometers and capable of carrying, I believe, multiple nuclear warheads. But again, with all of these, there's a lot of speculation about the actual capabilities when it comes to some of this more advanced technology. North Korea also showed off a couple rocket launchers. There's an airborne demonstration. And then they showed this tank, which is what the U.S. calls the M2020 prototype tank. It's the U.S. naming for it, right? That's not the North Korean name for it, which I'll have to look up. I'm not sure I've actually seen the North Korean name for this piece of equipment. But this is designed, it's something that's built in North Korea. And the whole point of this was for North Korea, who has largely been dependent on China and Russia, Chinese and Russian imports to kind of sustain and build their military. For a while now, North Korea has been trying to build up kind of their own internal defense industry. And one of the outputs from that is this M2020 tank. So call it next generation, if you will. It's kind of hybrid looking between like an Abrams and a T-14. It sounds like there's fewer than 10 that have ever been produced. So this is very much, keep prototype on the name when you're talking about this one. It appears to be far from the point of actually fielding it to combat units. And there's not a lot known. This is something I think would be a lot of fun to kind of dig into. I'm sure there's some deeper reports out there about the capabilities of this M2020 prototype tank. I haven't seen a lot. The highest level I've seen is people saying it is debated about the capabilities of this platform, and it's unlikely that it reaches the same capabilities and effectiveness that you see in the Abrams or even the Russian T-14. But interesting picture, kind of an interesting looking tank. So I'll try to keep up with some of these articles and topics around the world when it comes to national security, international relations. The war in Ukraine has taken a lot of attention, a lot of press attention, rightfully so, but there are still a lot of other pretty important things happening around the world. So try to keep up on that. But that's all I got for now. I'll see you all next time.